Calling all misfits, rebels, leaders, and teachers, welcome to the one place where the only way to fit in is by standing out, where big goals are met with even bigger action, and where we talk through then tackle all things entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Kelsey Knudsen, and this is the Get Shit Done podcast. Welcome to the Revolution. White space is not a luxury, it is a necessity in your business. And if you are struggling to grow and scale, whether that's your revenue size, your team size, or your offerings, odds are it's because you are not prioritizing white space. So let's define it first, make sure we're all on the same page here. White space, according to me, is also called design time. It's big blocks of time that are on your calendar for big projects, and they're left undefined. So for me, currently at the chapter of business I am in, I have 4 blocks a week, which sounds like a lot, but I have a lot of building I'm doing in my business. I do a chunk Monday morning, take a break for lunch, Monday afternoon. I do a chunk Friday morning, take a break for lunch, Friday afternoon. Some weeks, that's not how it works out. Some weeks, I go to meetings or I travel or I need to make adjustments to play catch up in my business, work inside of my business. But what I do is I just block off those times and I don't assign tasks to them ahead of time. I look at my next week and I say, hey, what is most relevant in my business and what needs to be tackled first and what would fit in those big blocks of time? So most recently, that design time on my schedule, aka white space, was filled with to-dos for my course. So there was one day where I recorded 20 videos. So design block 1 was record 1 through 10, and the other block was record 11 through 20. There was another day, design time-wise, where I needed to make Canvas slides for the course. So I spent the whole day designing those Canvas slides. So when I say white space, when I say design time, it's just blocks of uninterrupted time that eventually you fill with something. And sometimes it really is just like, I just need that intentional time to like get inspired again or dream or plan or strategize. It's also times where you're like auditing things. It's all those big boulders that exist in your business that you as the CEO have to be the one to decide and take the first step of action on. Of course, you can delegate some of that stuff down the road, but it's just that honored time where you're just making decisions and you're inspired and you're casting the vision for your business. I think this is one of the biggest missing links in a lot of companies who just kind of plateau. I think that's why. I think you get stagnant and you just let business kind of happen to you. So if you have big goals and dreams and you feel like you're not making progress on them, my question to you is, how much white space do you have on your calendar? How much white space do you have? And then what do you do with that space? Do you honor it? Do you fill it with client meetings? Do you fill it with small, tiny to-dos you can check off and feel good about? Or are you actually filling that with that deep work, right? So this all came to be because of a conversation I recently had. And we were talking about this concept of white space. I brought it up and I was talking about how right now I'm grounded. I'm just coming out of my grounded state, but I'm grounded because I'm in a season of building some things internally for my business. The new course I just mentioned was part of that, but also improving systems, improving the client experience, improving the website. Like all of those things have to happen, fit on the calendar. And those are not the same activities as doing client calls or running networking meetings or recording podcasts. These are all different activities. And I found myself coming to this place where it wasn't happening. And then I found out I wasn't putting it on the calendar. I wasn't blocking off enough time to sit and design something, to sit and map something out. And so once I put it on the calendar, I started to be able to make progress on these bigger projects that were never seeing the light of day. So I was talking about it in this group and I was like, as CEOs, we all need this time. And sometimes the white space is truly that. Sometimes it's just a block that's unfilled. But regardless, the big decision-making, the designing, the creativity, the vision, the inspiration, like has to come from you. And if you are not prioritizing time to foster that, you're going to have a hard time. And that's what I told this person. It was really interesting because when I was talking about this concept of white space, they literally were like, I wish I had the luxury. The luxury? I don't think white space is a luxury. I think it's a necessity. Now, the ratio of white space may be a luxury. There may be seasons where you're only able to carve out an hour or 2 hour block here and there. There may be seasons where you're only doing it once a quarter, but it still needs to happen. Otherwise, at that point, you're just an employee of your business. And I don't think you're here because you want that. So what changes? Why is providing white space and sticking to it, why is that so important? Number one, without white space, nothing changes. So, if we're honest and you're looking at your business and I think deep down, that process could be better. That could be a faster transition. That could be a cheaper option. Making improvements like that don't really ever happen if you don't stop and call them out and then create a process to improve. And that's where white space can help identify things like that. Also, to me, this is a missing link for leaders. When you have employees who are unclear of what's expected of them, when you have employees who are like, well, what do I do now? I need more guidance. When you have employees who are wanting to hit the next level and they're unclear of what needs to happen to hit that next level, I think the white space helps create the environment where you can start to make decisions like that on the big picture of your business. Because the truth is, if you have a great employee and you want to grow them into a future position, you have to decide what that looks like. You have to define it. You have to communicate it. You have to have check-ins with them. You have to have a roadmap of how they have to get there. You have to know what revenue has to be at in order to justify that position. All of those things are decisions that you have to make that are very different than just the day-to-day operations of a business. Another way white space can be helpful is like planning meals for the week. It could be making a shopping list, ordering from Instacart versus opening the fridge. Like, think of the preparation you can have by having this white space already delegated to you that you can fill in with what you need. I want to give you an example, like a real world example of what having white space versus not white space looks like. Planning meals for the week, right? Like if you planned your meals for the week and then you created your shopping list from there, and then from there you plugged it into Instacart and it came to your home and you were able to execute on that. And very clearly, like, I'm making this today, I'm making this tomorrow, etc. Versus just opening your fridge and having your fridge tell you what to do. That's the difference between having white space on your calendar and not as a CEO. Because if you don't have the white space on your calendar, you're going to open up your email and hope that it tells you what to do with your day. And guess what? Your email does not tell you to sit for 4 hours and design your next offer. Your email is not going to tell you to sit and audit your onboarding process to make sure it's streamlined and at the quality of standard that you want it to be. That's the difference. By having this time blocked on your calendar and then knowing what to fill it with, which is part 2. We're going to talk about that next week. But those two things are the secret sauce to building the next level of success in your business. And it might be the biggest gap you're having right now. So let's talk about how to set this up for success. How do you set up white space for success? Because I'm not talking about just like clocking off early and not working an entire day. This is not the point of white space. But there are things you can do to make this more impactful and beneficial and feel like a priority in your business. Number 1, block it off on your calendar. Like, just put it there. And there's weeks where if I need to open up my scheduling to clients, I think it might be next week. Nope, it's the week after. The week after next week, just the way my calendar fell. I have travel this weekend, travel next weekend. I'm doing client meetings on Wednesdays, which if you've been here a while, you may know I don't normally do client meetings on Wednesdays, but I can quickly make that call because I know there's some changes in my schedule these 2 weeks in a row, capacity-wise, that I need to make that call. And I feel confident in it, and the infrastructure is there to make it a really easy transition in my business without having to work extra hours, right? So number 1, block off that white space on the calendar and honor it. And for me, because I'm traveling 2 weeks in a row, there's 2 Fridays of white space that I am not honoring. And that's okay. Letting go of that expectation because there's other priorities in my life right now, and that is okay. But number 2 with white space is telling your team, if you actually are like, hey, I'm going to use this time to map out our next offer. I'm going to use this time to audit our process for the specific offer that we have all the way from the beginning to the end. And then you say like, hey, I'm not going to be available. And it's going to feel crazy because that activity, sitting down and mapping out your process, may not make you money in that moment. But you going through and dissecting it and making it better for the future will make you money in the future. And I think that's the crux of this. Like, this doesn't feel like a priority because it's not a core problem. But it's anytime you're wanting to improve, change, launch, like you need this time. And that's not just a quick 20-minute glance at a document. That's like hours of uninterrupted work and really dissecting it thoroughly. Another tip around this, how can you set up white space for success? Have a plan for that time. Like I said, I block off the time and then I plan pretty much week by week. I look ahead and I'm like, okay, well, we're still working on this course. We want to make sure all of the email automation check-ins are written. So the design time, I'm going to write the emails and then I'm going to schedule them and then go over them with my team the next time we have our team meeting. So that was our most recent design time. Well, guess what? Course is done. All of it, top to bottom, everything is done. And I have design time blocked off coming up. And I have nothing to put on that right now. That's fine. Maybe that break, that mental break of like that deep work, that big boulder moving work, maybe I give myself a break for that day and I tackle smaller tasks in my business. But then I know I go back to my quarter plan and I'm able to pick back up, okay, our next project is X, so I'm going to go tackle this. And I have that clarity. I have that recipe that I'm following. How else to set up for success? Put your phone on Do Not Disturb. Like airplane mode, face down, notifications off. This is not a great time to get interrupted. Think about it. If you are doing the deep work, if you're designing a new course, if you're auditing your processes, if you're going through your prices and making really hard decisions about pricing, you don't need all these distractions from an Instagram DM here, an email here, a client call here, pulling you in different directions. Every time you get pulled in a different direction, it takes minutes for you to recalibrate and remind yourself of where you're at. That's the point of this deep work, this design work, this white space, is to create the environment for you to just focus on this one thing because it needs to happen. So set your phone on Do Not Disturb and stick to it. And then pick a vibe. Like there's times I've listened to classical music when I'm doing this stuff. There's times I listen to hype music when I'm doing this stuff. There's times when I'm recording, as I'm getting ready, I'm listening to certain music to really get into the right mindset and the right energy for you. So all that to say, like, be really intentional with this time if you're going to make the most of it. And again, the permission to maybe right now, I need to change my design time frequency. Maybe I'd love to do it twice a week, but right now I can only do once a month. Okay, great. Do it and honor it. You make the call, but you have to create the priority. Otherwise, that big stuff is never going to change. Nothing changes if nothing changes. And the last piece is stick to it. Stick to it, whether it's once a month, if it's weekly, some kind of cadence where you're having that check in that time to be like, what deep work am I avoiding that I need to do? Me as the CEO. And I think that there's specific business owners that come to mind that we talk about improving systems or new things they want to do. And they keep saying someday, someday, someday. And those are the people that do not have white space in the calendar, or if they do, they're not honoring it. It's those two things. So all that to say, white space is not luxury. It is a necessity. And if you're newer to business, it may be less frequent that you really need to honor and protect it. But I think all of us benefit from having that focused, deep work time set aside in the calendar. I know for me, it's been game changing as of late, especially. It's why my CEO bootcamp came to be. It's why the rebrand is now rolling into a website overhaul with clarity. We know exactly what to-dos we're tackling next. Honestly, it's my hack to getting shit done. So if you're sitting here and you're like, okay, that's pretty cool. I want to talk to other people who are practicing this habit of white space and just hear what they have to say. I would love to have you inside our Get Shit Done Club. It's free. It's a community. We meet actually virtually every week on Wednesdays via Zoom. It's super cool. But if you're just wanting some extra accountability as you're starting to put this on your calendar, prioritize it, and figure out how to fill it, figure out what to do with it, I would love to have you in there. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And definitely come check us out. So that's what I have for you. Catch you next week. Hey, thanks for being a part of the Get Shit Done revolution. My hope is this episode sparked a fire in you, equipped you with some practical next steps, or inspired you to take action towards your goals. If it did, please help spread the word by sharing this episode or leaving a review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you're tuning in. Now it's time for me to hand over the keys and let you get shit done.